Hey guys, my name is Aaron and welcome to the channel. This is going to be the second installment in my series on A Course in Miracles, and today we're talking about one of the most important principles that the Course teaches, which is the power of forgiveness. Now, as we all know, the Course uses traditional Christian language, and one of the terms it uses very frequently is the Son of God. The Course teaches that there is only one Son of God because God only has one creation. So you and I and everyone alive on earth are what the Course refers to as the Son of God. The Course teaches that all fear arises from the belief in separation, and this is the ego's primary belief system. But the reason that we feel separate is because we believe that we are the body. So if the ego can get you to believe, I am this body, rather than I have a body, then it can begin to create fear. And where there is fear, there will eventually be sin. Where there is sin, there is always guilt. The Course says, the ego would have you believe one thing. It would persuade the Holy Son of God that he is a body, born in what must die. So being able to see through this false identification is the first step to releasing our guilt and finding inner peace and freedom. As I stated in the previous episode, the entire purpose of the Course is finding the peace of God. And one of the things that the Course does very well in giving you this peace is to completely remove the idea from your mind that the world is guilty. Because if you invest the world with guilt or see the world as evil, then you cannot have the peace of God. It is impossible to believe that evil exists and have peace at the same time. But the ego will try to give you all kinds of evidence for why you shouldn't believe this idea. But it is inescapable that the key to unlocking the peace of God in your heart is to see the entire world as forgiven and innocent, which is the message that Jesus came to teach. So in this episode, we're talking about the true good news of the gospel, which is the message of reconciliation and the power of forgiveness. Guilt is perhaps the greatest weapon of the ego to keep us identified as separate from God and to steal away our inner peace. The Course says that guilt is more than merely not of God. It is the symbol of attack on God. And so this choice to attack what God has made and to judge ourselves or anyone as being guilty is what causes the loss of peace. We only believe someone can be guilty because we believe that evil actually exists. But the Course teaches that evil does not exist. There is only the ignorance of truth. God is incapable of creating evil. Anyone who commits evil is doing so because they do not actually understand what they're doing. They are lost in a delusional world of the ego's making. In truth, there is no evil, there is only sanity and insanity. If people really knew that every action they commit actually affects themselves positively or negatively, then the choice between love and fear would be easy. But the ego convinces us that by choosing fear, choosing to hate or attack others, we can actually arrive at peace. This is obviously total madness that only a sick mind could believe. So true forgiveness is the recognition that there is really nothing to forgive. In the clarity of understanding, forgiveness is unnecessary. In one passage, the Course states, "Call it not sin, but madness. Invest it not with guilt, for guilt implies that it was accomplished in reality." This is a life-changing truth to realize. Everyone is just where they are. Everyone has to learn the same lessons, and some of us are just farther along than others. So this is why judgment is always meaningless. You cannot expect a second grader to pass a calculus test. And you cannot expect a person who believes the insane thoughts in their mind to behave sanely. A person's actions are always reflecting the quality of their consciousness. So if they truly knew better, they would behave better. And so what God sees is a sick person in need of healing. But what the ego sees is an evil person in need of punishing. And this is why it allows us to feel justified in attacking people in our minds. But the truth is that Everyone ultimately wants the same exact thing, which is to find happiness and peace. The desire for happiness and peace is inescapable, because happiness and peace is what God is, and is therefore our true nature. So everyone in every moment of their life is always doing what they believe will bring them happiness. Even the murderer is doing this. All of their pain and inner torment has gotten them to the place where they actually believe that killing someone will somehow bring them fulfillment. If anyone believed the thoughts that a murderer believes, then they would murder too. But what the ego wants to do is pretend like this person is exclusively evil and they deserve to be chained to a pole and beaten to a bloody pulp, as if that would somehow solve the problem. In reality, what you fight, you strengthen. What you judge, you perpetuate, because perception is creation. So to judge the murderer is to create the murderer. If you choose to see someone as a murderer, then you are literally empowering what the ego has created. But to see the truth within them that they have forgotten is to open the doorway for healing to occur. And this is why forgiveness is always your responsibility. If you make their errors real, then you are believing the same illusions that they believe. You're literally trying to solve a problem from the same level of thinking that created it. But if you can forgive them, then you are refusing to define them by the hallucinations that they have made. And this is why love is always the correct response to someone who's behaving wrongly. Whatever I love, I heal. But what I judge, I cannot love. And who this person truly is, whether they realize it or not, is the holy and innocent Son of God. But the less that they know that, the more insane their actions become. So if they don't know it, then it is my job to show it to them. And so the Course says, do not side with sickness in the presence of a Son of God, even if he believes it. For your acceptance of God in him acknowledges the love of God that he has forgotten. So forgiveness is to remind someone of who they truly are. Now, forgiveness does not mean that we don't lock dangerous people away, because that wouldn't be very loving either. If I was insane enough to kill someone, I would sure hope that someone would love me enough to stop me from ever doing it again. But forgiveness always has healing and rehabilitation as the end goal, and not mindless punishment. And the only way to heal an insane person is by perceiving the sanity within them. All judgment is ultimately self-judgment. The reason for this is because the subconscious mind is completely non-dualistic. The subconscious mind sees everything as itself. So any judgment or mind attack that you levy against someone else, your subconscious mind will apply to you. When you judge yourself for any reason, you are committing violence against yourself. But likewise, if you judge another person for any reason, you are also committing violence against yourself. Holding anyone in unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting them to die. And this is what the Course means when it says, accept as true only what your brother is, if you want to know yourself. Perceive what he is not, and you cannot know what you are, because you see him falsely. This is something that personally changed everything for me. The Course teaches that heaven is entered 2 by 2, meaning that the only way to get to heaven is through the person right in front of me. If I make this person guilty in my mind for any reason, then I make myself guilty and take away my peace. The Course says that your brother's errors are not of him any more than yours are of you. Accept his errors as real, and you have attacked yourself. All error is of the ego. Your brother's true essence is innocent. They might be ignorant of the truth, they might be hurting, they might be seeking vengeance as a means to get rid of their pain, but they are not evil. What everyone ultimately wants is God. And if they only knew that what they are is love, then they would be incapable of error. So to see this truth in another person is to see it in yourself and to set yourself free. The gospel was the message of reconciliation, that we have never been separate from God except for in our minds, that God is not counting our trespasses against us, but instead would have us to simply see ourselves as we really are. St. Paul said many times, "Do you not know that Christ is in you?" Meaning, do you not know that you are the Son of God? This is the meaning of the famous passage in 1 John 3:8, which says, "For this reason the Son of God was made manifest, to destroy the works of the devil." The devil is an ancient world term for the ego. So this is the reason that you were made manifest, to destroy the works of the ego and to remember who you truly are, because you are the way that God knows himself. So what are the works of the ego? Guilt, shame, and condemnation. Anti-gospel tools from hell. Guilt says, I'm not forgiven. Shame says, it's still who I am. And condemnation says, God is angry with me. Anti-gospel. Is God also insane that he could be angry or judge someone? In order to judge someone, you first have to believe that their illusions are real. And the Course says that God is wholly incapable of illusions. So judgment is ultimately the attempt to make yourself innocent by making someone else guilty. And this, more than anything else, is really the point that I want to hammer home in this video. The fastest way to have inner peace and freedom is to forgive everyone in your life who has wronged you and to see them as perfectly innocent. If you believe someone else can hurt you, then you must first have seen yourself as weak and fragile. You must believe that their insane behavior is actually sane. But if you offer them perfect forgiveness, then you must have already forgiven yourself and accepted your own innocence. That is freedom. To see the world as guiltless. To walk into every moment with an open heart, seeing and giving only love. But this is only possible once you see that judgment is always useless and wholly without reason. If you judge no one else as guilty, then it is impossible to judge yourself. So by offering freedom, you will be free. So forgiveness is really not for them, but for you. It is releasing yourself from the painful illusion that you had actually been harmed. And once this truth becomes your reality, I can tell you from personal experience that you cannot imagine how beautiful people will become. You will see no guilty stain anywhere you look. When you see the liar and the thief in front of you, you will not see an evil person, but you will see the Son of God, shining in all his radiance, whom no guilt has ever touched. And once you see it, you allow them to see it too. And in the light of this truth, you will understand why God's love is always unconditional. Because the Son of God is innocent. He is only light. There is no darkness in him anywhere. All his sins are but hallucinations. His errors are all past. And God sees only who he is in this holy instant. Perfect and free. And this is what the crucifixion ultimately represents. The cross is the symbol of the forgiven world, which becomes to us the gates of heaven, in which true, authentic freedom can be found. The Course says that the whole world has gone mad with guilt. And if we are to heal the guilt of the world, then we must begin by showing them who they truly are. That there is a place within them that knows no guilt or sin. It may be covered up by many illusions of fear, but it is there, waiting to be discovered. Only forgiveness can heal the world. And this was demonstrated perfectly by Christ at the crucifixion, who forgave his murderers while they were murdering him, who demonstrated the power of perfect love by submitting himself into the hands of angry and violent men. And instead of wrath and judgment, his response was, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do."